Morning, guys. Starting the day off quick here. I've got a bunch of projects to do. I got a call from the cigar client that finally got in the next shipment of cigars. I got to go down to Tampa right now and pick up a big carload, and that'll keep me busy with shooting for the next couple weeks in between these web projects. And got feedback already from the hotel side. I did finish that up along with the other wedding planner late last night, and she absolutely loves it. Just waiting on her reservations guy who's doing one page for her online reservations and calendar and everything, and that's on a separate site, so I can't do anything with that. And as soon as he updates that to match the look of the new one, we can go live, and that'll be awesome. And yeah, well, that's about it so far. It's oh, I've got a couple of cool deliveries coming today. At least one of them should be coming today. So I'm anxious to show you guys that. It's an upgrade / addition to the home theater. Okay, got another carload full of goodies. I got 4 big shipping boxes and some really big special display items. This is like a $1,200 huge special charity sampler and some brand new stuff that's coming out, some art design boxes, all kinds of insanely expensive stuff. So I need to get through this as quickly as possible. Given how much crap I have on my plate right now, I told them 2 weeks. So there's definitely more coming after this. I think we're about 3/4 of the way through, but that's just a rough estimate. The last shipment should be within the next month because they want to start launching their new website in the next 6 weeks. So it's kind of coming down to the wire. They're still going to be without some of the photography, obviously, at this point, but it'll be close. What am I going to do with 40 subscriptions to Vibe? We're just about done dripping here on the roof. I drilled one more pilot hole over here in this panel in between where the old 2 drips were. There was one there on the steel beam and one here, the original. And a lot came out of this, probably half a gallon so far. It was drip, 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 drip for a couple hours. So it's really slowing down now, but there's still some up in there. I figured if there was some coming off of these beams, those are the high points, probably something in here. You know, a little bit's been coming out of here. This has been the big one. This has water gathering, I mean, in gallons underneath or just above this aluminum sheeting. So this is one that really poured it out, and I think that last leak was right here. So it just dumped into this panel. But this is pretty much done. I'm really hoping that it's fixed because now with these new batch of cigars in, I use this room. You know, this is my storage room before the carpet was trashed, at least. And, you know, this is what I humidify as my little walk-in humidor for storing the stuff. But at least I've got a nice big open table now. I got rid of my mat cutter. I'm still trying to sell my rotary cutter, but I'll just keep that out of the way for now. And I'm like 1 entry away from doing this latest lottery, number 18. So I'm going to wait till that's done, which will probably be tomorrow, because I need to use this table to do the filming for it. And then I can unpackage all that and get it in there. Got 4 big shipping boxes full of stuff. Don't know what's in it quite yet. Plus some loose new stuff that they just got in today. Some new CLEs. Let me turn on the light here for you. Got in some new CLEs and some Fuentes. And then these are some uber special boxes, and I don't even know what they are. They're Fuente. Destino El Siglo. Destino El Siglo. I'm not sure what's in them, but they're very heavy. They're hardwood, and I'll find out, I'm sure. And then that super big Opus case and a display case of the new Durastate Nica Rusticas. So, yep, that's a good bit of production work. But I need to get through that as quickly as possible and wrap this project up so I can put my studio back together instead of having everything sprayed out like this, which makes it a pain in the butt to do everything else. This was supposed to be wrapped up by Christmas, believe it or not. But that's just how commercial stuff goes. Lots and lots of variables that are out of your control. So we're supposed to get a rain tonight. Hopefully it holds. I think it will. And as long as we don't have anything speed up here, I will feel good that this will completely stop in a few days. I'll caulk up the holes I drilled, clean everything up, reprime the ceiling, and call it good. Okay, the fun package of the day just arrived. Here's what's going on. When I first did the new theater system, absolutely loved it, still absolutely love it, and it was absolutely perfect for this room. But we got a new couch. Now, two things happened when we got this new couch. One, we tripled the amount of absorbent material in the room because the new couch is twice the size of the old couch, and we kept the old couch. Two, we moved the old couch to what was an empty wall over to the side of the room and put it pretty much right in front of the sub, which is underneath the planter there. Now, without this couch here, and with this the only couch in the room, the bass was awesome. Absolutely satisfied with it. It had just enough punch and volume for listening to any movie or music, and I didn't need anything more. However, in this configuration, it pretty much killed the bass. You have to crank the volume way up on the sub to bring it up to an acceptable level, and it distorts because it does not have the size or volume. It's only like a 6.5-inch driver. I mean, it's really small. It was okay at its limit before, okay? But now, we got this guy. Way more power. Way bigger. Much more the size of the one that I replaced. So this should fully take care of anything else. This has a 150 watt RMS amp, and that one I believe is, I want to say 50, if that. So big difference there. This is a 475 watt peak. I think that little one is a 150 peak, something right around there. It's day and night. This is a 12-inch driver, so a lot more cone space. Alright, so let's go ahead and unbox this guy, and I'm anxious to see what they look like side by side, and then I'm going to have to do a little room tuning, figure out the best spot for this one. That one took about a half an hour figuring out where it liked to be, and I'm sure this one will be probably a little different, but not too much different. So let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, and I'll give you a little review from the wife here. She's been doing a lot of workouts here at home. She loves the new theater for that. And she'd been doing this Focus T25 for the past few months. And she really liked it overall, but she got really bored with it. So now she's on to other stuff. And she just tried this. This came in the other day, this Biggest Loser. And she said it absolutely sucks. It is geared towards really, really fat people, and it's extremely low impact. It's not any kind of rigorous workout. Nothing like Focus T25. So she's trying a bunch of new stuff. And she just got a huge Amazon package a few minutes ago. I haven't opened it or anything, but it's full of DVDs. So it's probably something else in there, and I'll let you know what she thinks of different stuff that she's trying out. So if you like things like Focus T25 or what's the other, P90X, something like that, nothing, don't even waste your time on Biggest Loser. So there's a little size comparison, kind of comical. No comparison. I got this one. I found a deal on Slick Deals. Got it for $193 shipped. I can't remember the code, but I mean it wasn't much off. They're not that expensive to begin with. And it was pretty much a running between this and the Polk 505, I believe it is. Two very popular $200, $250 subs. You know, entry level. Certainly nothing audiophile quality grade or anything like that, but more than enough for a normal home theater, and that's all I need. I don't have a big room. You know, it's about, maybe 20 by 20. Not even that, maybe 18 by 18, something like that. So I've got about 12 feet from the TV to the viewing area. That's all there is. And I've just got windows all along this wall. And that's garage behind there. It's a fairly hollow wall. All of these are. And, you know, low ceiling. These ceilings are unfortunately pretty dang low. It's an old 70s house, so they're only like, you know, I'm going to guess about 7.5 feet tall. I feel, especially when I moved in here, kind of claustrophobic. Especially if I visit somebody's newer house and then I come home and I'm like, oh, it's like a bat cave. But You know, so I don't need anything really huge. Not looking for a $1,000 Velodyne or anything super high quality. But I do need movie quality audio. I mean, that's the entire reason I built this thing. Love movies. So let's look at the back. Oh, this one here is a front firing. This grill doesn't come off, so I can't show you. And a small side port. This one is front firing, and I can take the grill off, I believe. There we go. And then has a rear port. The ports are about the same size. A little hard to see there. Let me spin this around into the light. Very good build. I'm impressed with the wood. In comparison, this one feels and sounds like a real thin plywood and a veneer. Sounds plasticky. It's got a resonance. And this is much thicker. I mean, I'm sure it's not hardwood. It's probably an MDF. But there's definitely a difference there, and that always helps with sound quality overall. In the back, the old Yamaha here was really simple. It had power on and off, and it was not smart, so it was manually on or off. And then you had a coax input and a volume or a gain control, and that's it. And you know, this is designed to work with pretty much any home theater and be very simple to work, and it did its job. And in the right room, I did really like the sound of that. I'm really surprised by the quality that comes out of this little tiny 6.5-inch driver. But this one gives you much more standard home theater controls. You have different sets of inputs, not just a coax. You do have the standard coax, but you also have the option to tell it if it's a digital 5.1 coming in or a analog Pro Audio in, or Pro Logic, I should say. Not that that's really used anymore, but it's there. And then you have a crossover, which is very important. Man, let me get this in the light better. It's heavy. I want you to read these. All right, let's give that a shot. Okay, that's a little better. So here we have two dials. We have a crossover, and for those of you that don't know, this splits the signal. Basically, you're telling it don't produce frequencies below, or I should say above, a certain point. And what this is doing is taking the input signal and then filtering it. So say for example, I have very small speakers up here, typically called satellites, and they're not full range. They can't produce deep bass. They're small. That's why you need a subwoofer. So on a subwoofer with a crossover, I'm able to adjust it to say, hey, subwoofer, go ahead and take on more of the bass to make up for what those little guys can't do. So I can adjust that crossover to overlap a little bit with the bottom end of what they can produce, and that gives you a much more balanced overall sound. Now that one did sound good because that had a set crossover point. You can't adjust it, but it's designed to use with those specific speakers. So that's probably already set way up at the top. So I'm probably going to be dialing this pretty close to the top also. I'll have to look up the specs on that to see what the crossover point was. And I'm going to start at that point here with this dial. And that's probably going to be perfect. And then we have a volume here. And this simply is a gain control because there's a built-in amplifier in the sub. So you just set this to the appropriate level so it's balanced with your other speakers that are driven by your main amplifier. And then we have a phase selection switch, which should never be needed. I mean, if you're connecting through a coax, you're never going to need it. It's always going to be at 0, which is the default setting. It has a 180-degree setting, which is reversed, which happens if you accidentally cross your wires and you're using these kinds of inputs, which are positive and negative wires from a receiver. This is kind of an older style of connecting a subwoofer. Pretty much anything recent just uses this connection here. And more excitingly, this offers not only on and off power, but auto power. It will detect a signal. So if there's no active sound coming through it, it'll turn itself off and save you some electricity. And then when it detects a signal, it powers itself on automatically. So it's kind of like looking for a little bit of a trickle here and then fires itself back up. So basically it goes into a standby mode, whereas that one was always 24/7 on. You know, not a huge deal, but saves you a little bit of electricity. That's really about it. You can turn it on or off if you wish. Now, the only negative thing that I've read about the auto is some people say it will turn itself on and off. Say you're navigating Netflix through the menus or something. So I'll have to keep an eye on it. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But if I notice it cutting on and off, if it's too sensitive about that, because, you know, if you're not actively watching a program, I don't want it to immediately power off. There should be some type of delay there while you're going back through the menus and stuff like that. Or if you pause a program, I don't want it to turn off. And then if I unpause it, come back on, I want it to just stay on. But I don't know. We'll see. If it doesn't work, I'll just keep it on. It's not a huge deal. And then they give you a fuse. That's always good to have. And your standard power cord. Interestingly, ungrounded. I don't think I've ever seen power plug ungrounded in quite a while. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. I've already got my signal cord, same one I used for the old sub. And that is the new power cord. And we'll fire it up, see how it sounds, find a position. And then I've got a handy dandy feature of the new receiver. It has a remote microphone that you put in your seat wherever you are typically sitting. And it runs through a test tone program. And it sets all the parameters of all the speakers automatically. And it sets all the stuff up for you in like 2 minutes. It's really cool. All right, let's go. And there we go. After testing and setting it up, that's where this one likes to live. Firing forward about a foot away from the wall and a few feet in from the corner. So, give you some tips and tricks for doing the setup. If you don't have a dedicated test disc with tones and dedicated tracks for setting up crossover points and placement of the speakers and levels and all that, there are some movies that you can use for different aspects of it that are really great for doing a setup. For the subwoofer, what I suggest is the opening soundtrack to, oh my god, brain fart. I just played it too. Skyfall. James Bond 007 Skyfall, the theme as sung by Adele. It offers a great setup for a sub because it gives you a lot of different distinct bass tones at the low, mid, and high range of the subwoofer. And what that gives you is not only for hearing the range of your sub, but more importantly for checking for standing waves. Typically, you're going to hear them in the high registers. You know, for the Skyfall theme, you've got that doom, 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 and you might hear one really resonate in your room, and that's when you need to go and move the sub. Turn it 45 degrees, turn it flat to the wall, turn it sideways, move it out from the wall, move it out from a corner, all kinds of different configurations until you get all the tones very even. Doesn't matter if they're loud enough, that's a separate thing, but you want to make sure they're even because during that track, all those bass notes are the same volume. So you want to make sure you're hearing at your listening position the same volume for that whole thing. Plus it has great transients, and those are the kick drums. So you get that punch, that boom, boom, boom. You should be able to feel it. You should feel the vibration in your seat. It should feel visceral. It shouldn't just be muddy like whoa, whoa, whoa. That might be a sign that you've got your crossover set too high and the sub is trying to move too much air. What I did for the crossovers is I turned the sub off, and then I have it, you have, I don't know, 10 different points or 9 different points in the receiver that you can set your crossover point to. So it's sending the sub below a certain point, sending the rest of the speakers above a certain point. And that's really easy to do. Turn the sub off, turn it up to a volume at movie level, turn up some bass heavy part like the opening theme there. And if you hear any kind of distortion coming from your main satellite speakers, you raise that crossover point. And at 100 hertz, they were clean as a whistle. So that's a very good point for crossovers. 100, 120 is very typical. It's not often you're going to find little center or front satellite speakers hitting below 100. 80 is about the very lowest limit that you're going to get any kind of clean, loud sound out of them because they're just too small of a driver. So at 100, everything above goes to my mains, and I set the crossover dial to 100 on the sub, so it's not receiving anything above 100 anyway, but that's just where it's going to be producing. So that's kind of a moot point, just because I'm double crossover to the sub, but that's okay, it doesn't hurt anything. And the auto power works fantastically. I was pausing it, playing it back. There's a red light on the back when it's on standby. It goes to green when it's active, and it's absolutely instant, so that works great. I don't know what people were complaining about. Yeah, awesome sound. I haven't done the auto tuning setup. That's just to do the very fine level adjustments. I've got it dialed pretty close in. I set it to 0 at the receiver, and I've got it about halfway physically on the sub, which is a good base starting point, so that now the auto program should just adjust it a couple decibels up or down in the receiver, and bam. I mean, I set the room tone so it's as flat as can be. It's not perfect, but you know, you could fine equalize it, but it's darn close. I mean, those bass tones in the opening are perfect and really punchy. I'm impressed by the low that it goes down to. It says it's rated for 25. I don't quite buy that, but I'd buy 30. Definitely buy 30. And it vibrates the walls, it vibrates the windows at certain points, it vibrates the AC ducts at some points. So, you know, now the house is the bottleneck, so there's nothing I can do about that. But yeah, really big difference for 200 bucks. Absolutely day and night for the low end. Like I said, in the old configuration when the room was mostly empty, I was perfectly happy with that old sub. It didn't have this kind of impact, it didn't have the punch, it didn't have quite the lows, but it was very acceptable for especially what I paid for it. You know, if I hadn't added the couch, I wouldn't have upgraded even for 200 bucks. But I'm very glad I did. Excellent upgrade. If anyone's looking for a sub for whatever your situation is, I absolutely recommend this one. It's the Bic, oh god, I can't remember the model number. Just look online for the Bic 12-inch. It's, you know, very popular. Competes all the time with the Polk 505, I believe it. They're right in the same price point. And just from people's reviews, they said they were more happy with this one, especially for movies, so I went with it, and yeah, have to agree, it is really cool. Love it. Alright, that's it. Got a ton of more work to do. Wife got home here, and she's having her dinner. I gotta make something. God, I've only had a sandwich today, so I'm kind of hungry. See you tomorrow.